Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Standard Open here in Cincinnati, part of the SCG Tour, brought to you by Ultimate Guard. I'm Nick Miller alongside Jackson Hicks. How you doing, sir?
Not too bad. I'm 7-1 right now.
Came down up from the commentator's way. Matthias and Ryan said you traveled down?
Yeah, from Minneapolis. I actually just teamed with Matthias in GP Cleveland. That was pretty fun.
He said you're a person to watch, and I said, all right, well, if he starts doing well, we'll keep track of him. Lo and behold, 7-1, doing pretty well.
Not too bad.
Got a win on camera last round playing a black-red aggro deck with a bunch of new cards from Amonkhet.
Yeah.
An Hour of
Devastation, yeah.
You got kind of everything going together with both sets. So.
Yeah. So it's a black-red aggro deck, but don't be deceived by the aggressive part. This deck can go late. Dread Wanderer, Scrap Heap Scrounger, and Earthshaker Kenra all come back from the graveyard. Cut to Ribbons also does. So it's kind of like I'm playing like an early game one where my opponents throw away resources so that they don't die, and then I can still beat them late game.
Right, you have this Mardu Vehicles-esque feel to your deck.
It does feel like Mardu, except that my mana is just so much better. If anyone's like played Mardu, the mana feels terrible and you can't cast your spells. Yeah,
the big kind of complaint about that deck was when your mana works, the deck's unbeatable.
Right,
but there's so many games where your mana is really bad.
This deck's just unbeatable.
All right, you heard it here first, deck tech over. Yeah. Unbeatable. Now, we'll go over some of the other cards here because you have some All-Stars from Hour of Devastation, starting with Earthshaker Kenra, which, as you mentioned, comes back from the graveyard. But also, I think we have to mention Ammon Eternal. This is the card that draws me to this deck.
It's a big part of the deck. So Ammon Eternal is really good because it's just a giant creature. I mean, clearly, it's 3 mana 5/5. And then the card shines when you're just killing their creatures every turn. So, like, I'll play Ammon Eternal, they'll play a creature, I'll kill it, I'll bash them. And it also adds to the fact that this deck has a bunch of incidental damage that doesn't go through combat. So, like, this has Afflict 3. This Ribbons can flash back, Disintegration goes at them, Chandra goes at them. So a lot of times if my opponent's just at 10 and they have 10 blockers, they're still which actually happens with the Blue-White Monument deck, you can still easily win through that. Right,
with Afflict and all this flashback damage, you can actually fight through a clogged board state.
And so this isn't much to the deck, but Ammon Eternal, being a very big creature, your opponents really want to like double block it a lot, and that happens like a lot with Thraben Inspector decks, is that they'll make it like a 4/4 and then they'll double or triple block with it. I'll get an Afflict trigger and then I'll kill one of their guys. And it really just forces them into bad situations. The card's like especially good against Mardu Vehicles as it single-handedly kills Gideon. It's really good against like blue-white when they don't have Monument.
Right, this is the card that really kind of drew my eye. I played against this card in the pre-release last weekend. Got absolutely ran over by it. And I was like, this card has to have legs in Standard. When you see a 3 mana 5/5, it usually comes with a massive drawback, like Phyrexian Negator or something like that.
Right. So another good thing about that card is that a lot of the removal played right now, especially at instant speed, is like Magma Spray, Abrade. A lot of people are playing Harness Lightning for just 3 energy. So like, if I just play Ammon Eternal, I've like played it so many times my opponents just like stand and stare at their hands and they're just like, oh, I can't kill this.
Right, the almost only clean thing for it is Grasp at Darkness.
Or Cut.
Right.
Cut right there, yeah. It's like one matchup where it's a little worse is like Chandra Glorybringer decks, because those get it with just 1 hit.
Right. All right, so we'll take a look at the rest of the deck, because this card's obviously bonkers, but you have some other things kind of supporting the package here. Pia and Kia, well, just Pia Nalar here.
So this card has actually impressed me a lot. Originally, I was just playing it as a way to turn on Disintegration, because Disintegration is just such a good card, and Scrounger was like kind of the only artifact I really wanted to play. So I just made it a point to play more artifacts just to make Disintegration a very good card.
Then you bring in Heart of Kiran as well.
Heart of Kiran. So Heart of Kiran, we all know, is a great card. I'm only playing 2 of them because I don't have a very good way to crew it. Consistently at least, and a big part of my deck is that it just like never has like super awkward draws, and having too many of a legendary card can lead to that.
Sure, we've seen that in Mardu Vehicles before, but your deck has 3 or 4 good ways to crew it. Plus you have Chandra here, which I saw you earlier in the tournament just play Chandra, up it, play Heart-of-Kirin. On the next turn, you could block with it.
Right.
So you have a lot of plays with that.
Good at protecting the Chandra.
And then tapping out with Glorybringer here on the top
Yeah,
end.
so I'm playing 2 Glorybringer. I'm only playing 2 because, again, a big part of this deck is just to not have awkward draws. And I felt playing with more of them that a lot of times I just had like 2 or 3 in my hand with only 4 lands, and I would lose because of that. But Glorybringer is a great card. You know, it's really good at punishing a lot of strategies.
Breaking news, Glorybringer, very good card.
Yeah.
Rounding out the removal suite here, of course, you said you had Cut and Disintegration, Fatal Push, the other go-to card.
So this is like a big part of the deck. We've seen Cut in like the Teamer Energy decks, but we've never really like seen like a black-red aggro deck since Cut was printed, and you would be amazed on how good this card is. It's just like, even the Cut portion is just very good, and it comes back to just deal like 5-6 damage to my opponent, and like playing an aggro deck, that's just so good. Like, Cut to Ribbons is a big reason why I can play 25 lands in an aggro deck, why I don't flood, why I can like win the late game.
Right. You have 3 of the cycling lands, so 25 lands, but you do have a little insurance if you kind of draw too many of them. Ton of late game abilities, whether it be Scrap Heap Scrounger, Dread Wanderer, you name it, you have a lot of things to use your mana with.
Yeah.
All right, so we've seen, you know, the main deck, you come out strong at the early game, and then you have the tools to play late game. And then when you move to the sideboard, you're even more of this Mardu Vehicles transformational deck.
Right.
Sticking with black-red, you have a bunch of value creatures and planeswalkers. Take us through the planeswalkers, because you got a ton of them.
So I have Ob Nixilis and Chandra here. Chandra comes in actually a lot more than Ob Nixilis does. But Ob Nix is a very good way at punishing decks that are like, play a bunch of removal and then play 1 creatures, which like, I'll play 1 creature, because a lot of decks will try to do that against aggro decks. They'll like, you know, kill my first 3 guys, and then they'll play like some Tireless Tracker or something, and Ob Nixilis is a really good way to punish that. Chandra is just a very good way to like, against a lot of decks, I'll just turn 3, I'll swing, they'll like play a Braid or something, and then I'll just like play Chandra and they can't win. Liliana of the Last Hope, actually, if you saw my feature match, it single-handedly won me that match against Blue-White.
Shoots down most of the creatures in the Monument deck.
Yeah, Selfless Spirit is the main reason that Blue-White has a good matchup against this deck, and Liliana's a good way at killing Selfless Spirit. And then it also has gained equity in that it's -2, milling 2 cards. I do have 16 cards here that use the graveyard.
Right, not a bad thing when you're getting a card back and stocking your graveyard with a bunch of utility. Then you move into the 4-drop creature slot here. We got Gonti and Kalitas, 2 all-stars in any deck that goes mid-range.
They are very, very good in their own right. They are for very different matchups. So Kalitas is a good way to like go into the more of a control deck, boarding out like some of the Heart-of-Kirins and some of the creatures. And it's mainly a hedge to the fact that the decks I was losing to online was like Elder Deep Fiend decks and Blue-White Monument. And Kalitas is an absolute house against those, especially because Blue-White Flash boards out Dusk Dawn against me, or at least has in the past. Gonti, this card, I have yet to board it in, but the matchups it's for is Black, Green, and Teamer Energy. It's really good against Bristling Hydra. It's really good against Giant Snakes. I guess I boarded it in once against Blue-Red. But the card is very meta-dependent, but it's important if you expect Black, Green, and Teamer.
Right, so you've dodged those more mid-rangey matchups there.
I do think that those are pretty good matchups, so I would like to play them. But
then you just have your removal suite here, extra Fatal Push, Magma Sprays. Then you have Transgress the Mind, an extra Glorybringer, and then 1 Sweltering Suns. This is an interesting inclusion here.
I boarded this in a couple times. None of my opponents have played around it because I'm playing an aggro deck with all creatures that die to it. But like, really, one thing about this deck is that Wraths just don't affect it at all. Like, all my creatures come back, and Eternal doesn't die to it. Like, I have Planeswalkers, and I have removal backup. So a lot of times I've like played a Scrounger on turn 2, and then my opponent's overextended, and I just like Sweltering Suns them. So this is kind of an unsung hero. That Transgress, that's just mainly for ramp. That's why it's in there. I've boarded it in against other decks, but I wanted something against ramp because I do think it's a very good matchup. But, you know, if they have a nice little like turn 4 hour of promise, then you can lose.
Got an Ulamog on the way.
Right. Glorybringer, I mean, everyone knows why Glorybringer is good. Yeah.
So what brought you to this deck? Because in the very early parts of Standard, when a lot of these black and red cards came out, people were trying to push this Bomat Courier, super low to the ground, almost discard heavy aggro deck. What brought you around to this type of deck?
I actually helped work with Jacob Hagan on that Bomat Courier deck that top, forward the Open a while ago.
Sure.
I think Bomat Courier is a bad card, so that's one reason not to play it. But this deck, I just like, Scrounger is just so good. I like this idea of, basically, I think that people didn't explore like post-Marvel ban enough, and I think that this deck actually just would have been good post-Marvel ban, and no one found it, so I feel like I'm kind of like, I just like think that this plan of just having a bunch of aggressive creatures that come back is just really good in this format because people are just jamming a bunch of removal.
Yeah, and there's only so many Magma Sprays to go around. They're not going to be able to tag all your creatures with Magma Spray.
So this just felt like a very good week 1 deck. It's like really consistent. So, I mean, it's just consistent. It kills your opponent fast. And, if you're someone that doesn't really like to flood, playing aggro decks, then this is a very good deck for you.
All right. Well, you're 7-1 so far. You got one more round here left in day 1. Looking to close it out strong.
Yeah.
Jackson, thanks for joining me here in the sideboard.
Thank you very much.
Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Cincinnati.